the surface, a private prison looks like a remarkably stable investment. You find a building, you hire guards, and collect a government check for a service with constant demand. But when you look at the financial structure, the perceived safety of that investment disappears. You find a business model where the entire investment is vulnerable to a single policy shift. This market operates through a unique economic triangle. The customer is the government, the occupant is the prisoner, and the product is a human being in a cell. Because the prisoner cannot pay and the government demands savings, the corporation only has one way to extract a margin. They must find the money in the quality of the operation itself. This industry was created by a specific collision. Between 1972 and 2008, the U.S. prison population grew by 500%, while state infrastructure budgets were unable to keep pace with the demand for beds. The private sector pitched a solution to legislators. Private capital would cover the upfront construction costs, and the state would only pay a daily fee per prisoner. This pitch solved an immediate budget crisis, but it established a system where a corporation's financial health is tied to the continued growth of the prison population. Looking at the revenue side of the ledger, every dollar in this industry flows from a government contract. Most contracts use a per diem payment, a flat daily rate for every person in the facility. This creates occupancy risk. If the prison population drops, the revenue disappears, but the fixed costs of the building remain. To protect their revenue, corporations introduced minimum occupancy guarantees, also known as lockup quotas. Data from these contracts show how high those quotas go. Colorado signed agreements guaranteeing a 90% occupancy rate, while Arizona hit 100%, forcing the state to pay for every bed regardless of the crime rate. When Colorado reformed its sentencing laws and the prison population declined, the state still had to pay private facilities $2 million for beds that were sitting empty. These contracts turned successful crime reduction into a financial penalty. The corporation's profit relies on society's failure to reduce the prison population. On the expense side, a prison is a constant operation with massive, unavoidable fixed costs. You cannot close the wings or furlough the guards when demand is slow. To maintain a margin, operators cut their largest expense, labor. Private prison guards typically earn 30 to 40% less than their public sector counterparts. These lower wages lead to high staff turnover. Facilities often run with inexperienced staff, which correlates with increases in smuggled contraband and unreported violence. The second major expense is healthcare. Unlike food or utilities, medical needs do not follow budget cycles, and the flat daily rate from the government does not increase when a prisoner gets sick. This creates a direct incentive to limit care. Every dollar spent on a doctor or an emergency transport is a dollar subtracted from the facility's net operating income. Under this cost structure, necessary medical care becomes a threat to the bottom line, and human beings are managed as inventory on a balance sheet. Before generating any revenue, a company must spend hundreds of millions of dollars building a specialized, high-security infrastructure asset. Because these buildings are single-tenant properties, their value is tied to the government contract. If the tenant leaves, the reinforced cells and razor wire make the facility unsuitable for any other commercial purpose. This creates extreme political risk. In early 2021, an executive order directed the Department of Justice to phase out private criminal detention contracts, threatening the revenue of the major operators. To protect their investment, these companies lobby for stricter laws or pivot to immigration detention, which offers a different supply of human beings to fill the empty beds. Since the building itself has no secondary market, the corporation is forced into a state of permanent dependency, needing a constant flow of prisoners to avoid total loss. To see the full scope of this system, we have to look past the private operators and at the macroeconomic scale of the entire United States justice system. The U.S. spends roughly $80 billion a year on incarceration. Private operators capture about $4 to $5 billion of that total, a tiny sliver compared to the scale of the public system. The private sector is not the only group with a financial interest in high incarceration. Public employee unions also lobby against sentence reductions to protect their members' jobs. In many rural regions, state-run prisons are the primary employer and economic anchor, creating local resistance to any reform that would reduce the inmate population. The entire system, whether public or private,
operates under a shared set of incentives that prioritize maintaining the prison population over reducing crime. The private prison industry did not create the system of mass incarceration. It simply found a way to send its shareholders a dividend check while participating in it.